Hi, I'm Emma Thompson, and this is the story of how an abandoned farm turned me from the family disappointment into someone my greedy relatives couldn't ignore. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden in the places others consider worthless. I still remember the day of the will reading like it was yesterday. The mahogany-paneled law office felt suffocating as our family lawyer, Mr. Harrison, adjusted his glasses and began reading my parents' final wishes. The tragic car accident that took both of them had left a $50 million fortune to be divided between my sister Sarah and me. Or so I thought. To our beloved daughter Sarah, Mr. Harrison read, "We leave our investment portfolio, the family mansion, and all liquid assets." Sarah's perfectly lipsticked mouth curved into a triumphant smile. To Emma, he continued, his voice softening slightly, "We leave Grandpa Thompson's old farm property in Montana." The room fell silent. Then Sarah's laughter shattered it. "A farm?" she sneered, her designer bracelet jingling as she waved dismissively. "Oh, this is perfect." Little Emma always did prefer playing in the dirt to attending charity galas. I sat there, stunned. The 200-acre farm had been abandoned for 20 years, ever since Grandpa passed away. Dad had always called it worthless, refusing to even visit it. Now it was my only inheritance. "There must be some mistake," my Aunt Patricia interjected, her face pinched with concern that wasn't for me. Richard and Margaret would never leave their daughter with just dirt. Mr. Harrison shook his head. "The will is quite clear. The farm, including all structures and contents, belongs to Emma." Sarah stood up, smoothing her channel dress. "Well, sis, enjoy your barns and chickens. I've got a portfolio to manage." She paused at the door, her smile cruel. "Don't worry, if you need a loan, I'm sure we can work something out. After all, what's family for?" I left the law office that day with a single manila envelope containing the farm's deed and keys. 20 years of dust coated everything when I arrived at the property the next day. The main house was a weathered 2-story structure that had seen better days, but it was the massive old barn that caught my attention. Grandpa Thompson had been an odd man, brilliant but eccentric. He'd made his fortune in mining engineering before retiring to this farm, where he spent his last years tinkering in that barn. Dad always said the old man had lost his mind, wasting his genius on a worthless piece of land. The barn door groaned as I pushed it open. Sunlight filtered through gaps in the wooden walls, illuminating decades of cobwebs. Old farming equipment sat rusting in corners. But something felt off about the space. The dimensions didn't quite match the exterior. I remember following Grandpa here as a child, watching him disappear for hours behind a hidden door. "Our little secret," he'd whisper, winking. After his death, no one could find that door. Dad searched briefly before declaring it another of his father's delusions. But I remembered. 3 taps on the north wall, then pushed the 4th board from the bottom. My hands trembled as I followed the long-forgotten pattern. Click. A section of wall swung inward, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. My phone's flashlight illuminated the way down to a massive underground room. What I saw inside made my heart stop. Covering the walls were detailed geological surveys, mining charts, and chemical analyses. In the center sat a sophisticated testing lab, preserved under dust covers. But it was the safe in the corner that changed everything. The combination was my birthday. Grandpa never forgot it, even in his final days. Inside, I found a leather-bound journal and a USB drive. The journal's first page read, "To Emma, the only one who ever bothered to listen." As I read through his meticulous notes, tears filled my eyes. Grandpa hadn't lost his mind. He'd made a discovery that would reshape the entire mining industry. The worthless farm sat on top of one of the largest rare earth element deposits in North America. He developed a revolutionary extraction process that was both efficient and environmentally friendly. The USB drive contained detailed patents, already filed, but never activated. Grandpa had been waiting for the right moment, and the right person, to bring his discovery to life. My hands shook as I realized what this meant. The farm wasn't worthless. It was worth billions. But I knew that if my family found out, they'd try to take it from me. Sarah would hire the best lawyers, claim I wasn't competent to handle such a discovery. I needed to move carefully, protect myself before anyone realized what Grandpa had left me. I spent that night in the old house, reading through every page of his journal. In the morning, I made 3 calls to a patent lawyer, a mining engineer, and an investment banker I'd befriended during my own quiet years working in finance, a career my family had dismissed as modest. "Keep this absolutely confidential," I told each of them. "I'm about to show you something that will change everything." Over the next 6 months, I worked in secret. While Sarah posted photos of her luxury vacations and charity galas, I assembled a team of the industry's best minds. The old barn became our command center, its hidden lab modernized with cutting-edge equipment. "These patents are revolutionary," Dr. Chen, our lead engineer, explained during one late-night session. "Your grandfather's extraction process could make rare earth mining both profitable and environmentally sustainable. Do you realize what this means?" I did. With the growing demand for rare earth elements in everything from smartphones to electric vehicles, we were sitting on a gold mine. Literally and figuratively. We'd incorporated Thompson Sustainable Resources quietly through a series of shell companies. I used my savings from years of careful investing to fund initial operations. Every step was calculated to keep my family in the dark. Then came Sarah's wedding, a lavish affair at the family mansion. I almost didn't attend, but I knew my absence would raise questions. "Oh, Emma," Sarah exclaimed with false warmth when I arrived. "How's farming going?" Her new husband, a hedge fund manager, snickered. "It's quite educational," I replied mildly. "Actually, I've been meaning to ask, how's the tech sector of your portfolio performing?" Sarah's smile faltered slightly. "Why? Just curious. I heard rare earth element shortages are causing problems for manufacturers. Must be affecting stock prices." "I haven't checked recently," she admitted, clearly uncomfortable with her lack of knowledge. "You should look into it," I suggested, hiding my smile behind a champagne glass. The next morning, while Sarah jetted off to her honeymoon in the Maldives, we broke ground on our first extraction facility. By the time she returned 3 weeks later, Thompson Sustainable Resources had already secured contracts with 3 major tech manufacturers. The story broke in the Wall Street Journal. Revolutionary mining company disrupts rare earth market. My phone exploded with calls from family members as our company's value soared past $1 billion in its first public trading day. "Emma," Sarah's voice was shrill when she finally reached me. "Why didn't you tell us? We're family." "Are we?" I asked quietly. I thought I was just the girl who got dirt for her inheritance. The next few weeks were chaos. Sarah and Aunt Patricia tried to claim that Grandpa's patents should have been part of the family estate. Their lawyers argued that I had concealed valuable assets. But Grandpa had planned everything perfectly. His will explicitly stated that all contents of the farm, including any intellectual property developed there, belonged to me. The hidden lab's existence proved he developed everything on the farm property. The final showdown came at an emergency family meeting called by Aunt Patricia. They all sat around the massive dining table in the mansion, the same table where they'd once mocked my modest career choices. "You have to understand," Sarah pleaded, her designer bracelets clinking nervously. "Dad would have wanted the family to share in this." I pulled out Grandpa's journal, opening to a marked page. "Dear Emma," I read aloud, "I'm leaving you this farm because you're the only one who saw its value beyond dollar signs. Your father and sister chase wealth, but you chased knowledge. That's why you'll succeed where they failed." The room fell silent. "You know what the difference is between us, Sarah?" I continued, closing the journal. "When you got the family fortune, I congratulated you. When I built something of my own, you tried to take it. We can work something out," she began, but I cut her off. "Actually, we can't, but I will give you some free advice. Invest in sustainable technology. Thompson Sustainable Resources is about to announce a major expansion." As I walked out of the mansion, Aunt Patricia called after me. "Your parents would be ashamed of how selfish you're being." I turned back one last time. "No, they'd be ashamed. They never saw what Grandpa saw in me. But that's their loss. Just like this company is your loss." Today, Thompson Sustainable Resources is valued at $12 billion. We're revolutionizing the mining industry while protecting the environment. The old farm has become a state-of-the-art research facility, though I kept the barn exactly as Grandpa left it, secret room and all. Sarah still tries to reconcile occasionally, usually when she needs something. Last month, she called about investing in our latest venture. I had my assistant direct her to our public investor relations line. The family mansion was recently put up for sale. Sarah's risky investments and lavish lifestyle had finally caught up with her. I bought it through a shell company and turned it into a science education center for underprivileged kids. Yesterday, I received an invitation to speak at my old high school's graduation ceremony. The topic? Finding value in unexpected places. I accepted immediately, already planning my speech. After all, sometimes the greatest fortune isn't what you're given, but what you discover when everyone else has stopped looking. As for the old farm, I still live in Grandpa's house, though I've renovated it thoughtfully. Every morning, I walk to the barn and tap that secret panel, remembering the man who saw past appearances to true value, both in the land and in me. They say success is the best revenge, but I've learned it's not about revenge at all. It's about proving that true worth isn't in what you inherit, but in what you create. And sometimes, the most valuable inheritance isn't money, it's the wisdom to see what others miss.
"Mom, what's that over there?" When I returned home from my parents' house with my daughter, we were met with piles of trash bags in front of the entrance. As we approached, I realized that these bags contained my daughter's and my belongings, carelessly packed as if they were actual trash. Confused, I exclaimed, "What's this? Why is this happening?" My daughter tearfully pulled out her beloved stuffed animal from one of the bags and hugged it tightly. Frustrated, I marched towards the entrance, only to find that the locks had been changed while we were out. It became apparent that my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were behind this. Ringing the doorbell and knocking several times yielded no response. "What is this? Isn't it terrible?" I muttered. Upon closer inspection, one of the trash bags had a note that read, "Parasites disappear, never come back." A surge of anger welled up within me, and I couldn't help but express my frustration aloud. "The real parasites are you," I muttered. This was the worst treatment I had ever received from my in-laws in 15 years. Not only me, but making my daughter feel this way too was unbearable. My patience exhausted, boiling with anger, I loaded our belongings into the car, and we returned to my parents' house. I will never come back to this house again, I declared. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens to the parasites when their host is gone. My name is Sarah. I am currently 43 years old. I live with my husband, daughter, and my husband's mother and sister. I can't say we live happily. I work from home, but this house is never peaceful. The issue lies with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, Diane. They have disliked and ignored me for over 10 years. As my daughter, Tracy, grew up, it bothered me less and less. I mainly work as a personal consultant. I started as a fortune teller, but as my blog became popular, I began receiving more consultations on attracting customers, leading to my current job. I met my husband, Kent, through a friend's introduction when I was training to be a fortune teller. I work in sales at a pharmaceutical company, and I also do affiliate marketing as a side job, which is finally starting to take off. Kent gave me enthusiastic advice on attracting customers when I expressed my struggles with fortune telling. Attracted by his kindness, we started dating and got married a year later. At that time, our income wasn't great, but Kent always supported me. I'm so glad I married Kent. I truly felt this way. Living with my in-laws began about a year after I got married. It started when my father-in-law, who had been healthy until then, suddenly passed away. My mother-in-law felt insecure about the future and asked my husband to live with us. We agreed to live together in exchange for her taking care of the household chores. Initially, my mother-in-law welcomed our living together and was happy. I hoped we would get along well, but I was mistaken. 2 months later, she began completely ignoring me, perhaps dissatisfied with me not helping with the housework. Soon, my sister-in-law, Diane, also started ignoring me. I didn't mind being ignored, but the challenging aspect with my mother-in-law was her tendency to involve others. Not only did Diane, my sister-in-law, hear about it, but even neighbors and relatives were informed that my daughter-in-law stays at home, but says she's working, leaving all the housework to me. If I say even a little, she talks back 100-fold, so I just ignore her. To make matters worse, my mother-in-law would suggest to others, "You better not talk to her too. It'll be troublesome." As a result, people around the in-laws' house began giving me only tepid responses to my greetings. I felt isolated, and it became very difficult. Despite my pleas to stop spreading strange rumors, my words were completely ignored. Although my mother-in-law's attitude softened slightly when my daughter Tracy was born 2 years after we started living together, her overall stance towards me hardly changed. However, she was very fond of Tracy, and having her help with household chores and child care was a huge relief as my work became busier. Around the same time, my husband Kent's side business started to struggle, and he seemed unable to adapt to changes in the affiliate marketing market. He approached me saying, "Sarah, can you increase your contribution to the monthly expenses a bit?" I agreed, expressing that my consultations were increasing, and the new methods I implemented were working well. Despite my willingness to collaborate on ways to boost his sales, Kent insisted on handling it independently, saying, "I think I'll try it on my own. I'm really sorry." From the beginning of our marriage, we had agreed that Kent would manage the household finances. Initially, my income was low, so he allowed me to contribute more when my sales increased. I transferred money to Kent based on my monthly earnings, and he provided a fixed amount for living expenses in cash. Initially, I could only contribute $100, but now I could transfer up to $1,000, though not every month. I could contribute more if I dipped into savings. I knew Kent was struggling with his side business, but his pride prevented him from consulting me. He began spending more time at cafes after work, returning home later and later. When Tracy was about 5, Diane got married and moved out. Since she lived nearby, she often brought her son Ricky to our house during the day. When Ricky turned 1, Diane expressed her intention to start a part-time job. My mother-in-law gladly offered to take care of him until the evening. Diane was appreciative, saying, "Thank you, I'm so happy." However, as my mother-in-law began caring for Ricky at home, she became very fond of her grandson and started being cold towards Tracy. When they fought, my mother-in-law would scold Tracy, comparing her unfavorably to Ricky. Over time, Tracy started playing near me and began to dislike my mother-in-law's behavior. I spoke up, saying, "Talk to your mother. Tracy and Ricky are both her grandchildren. She should treat them the same. Tracy is already a big sister in elementary school." However, my mother-in-law's focus shifted, and she approached me saying, "Things are tough at the company right now. We might not get bonuses, so could you contribute a bit more?" Despite the challenges, my blog's client attraction was successful, and I started receiving more consultations as a consultant, earning far more than I did as a fortune teller. When Kent requested additional financial support, I responded, "I'm already contributing $2,000 a month. Isn't that enough?" "Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say, but my salary has decreased and the side business isn't going well." "Don't be secretive. We're a couple. We should support each other in tough times." "I'm really ashamed." "Thank you." Later, the amount I contributed gradually increased, and eventually I was transferring $4,000 a month to Kent. Still not wanting to hurt his pride, I let Kent continue to manage the finances. When Tracy was in 6th grade, Diane came back home with Ricky. It seems Diane got divorced due to her infidelity, but I don't know the details. By this time, Tracy could help around the house, so household chores were divided among each family, being ignored by my mother-in-law, and Diane continued, but it no longer bothered me. It's unfortunate that I couldn't give Tracy her own room when she started middle school, as Diane's return meant we ran out of rooms. One night, while discussing which tutoring school Tracy should attend for middle school, Diane suddenly said, "Hey, tutoring is expensive. Why doesn't Tracy study by herself? Could you stop making such comments? I'm paying for the tutoring, so it's none of your business what Sarah's paying." "Impossible. You don't earn anything. Kent said he's supporting you. You're just a leech, aren't you? Ha ha, you married him because he has money, right?" "Exactly. Kent told me not to speak ill of Sarah, who can turn, but that's just shameless." My mind was filled with questions. What does this mean? What has Kent been telling his mother and the others? Kent is the one supporting this house financially. It's about time we put an end to the parasite's lifestyle. I feel bad for Tracy, but if we pay for her tutoring, we won't be able to pay my compensation. Not be able to pay? Are you saying our house is paying for your compensation, Diane? Kent said he would pay for it. You should spend your money on Ricky. I began to understand the deception and felt my anger rising. My husband had always managed our household finances, and my mother-in-law had taken care of the household chores and child care until Tracy grew up. So I thought they knew I was also contributing to the household expenses. Is Kent bearing all the expenses of this house, including your living expenses and the compensation Diane is supposed to pay? Be quiet. It's only natural for a family. You're the only outsider here, not related by blood, and yet you act as if living here is your right. It really makes me angry. I contribute money too. Don't talk back. What you contribute is barely enough for your own food expenses. You hardly have any income, and yet you're so arrogant. I could feel my body trembling with anger. I could see Tracy on the side, looking like she might cry. I knew Kent had a lot of pride, but I never thought it would be this bad. Certainly, in the beginning, Kent was paying for the living expenses and pocket money for my mother-in-law and Diane, but I had started contributing as well, and now we were living on my income. I needed to talk to Kent properly. Around midnight, Kent came home. He was drunk and seemed cheerful. "Can we talk? I didn't know you weren't getting any money from your mother or Diane. They said you're covering all the expenses of this house." About that. My bad. It's a matter of pride as a man, you know. When we started living together, I was paying for everything. There wasn't a right moment to say you were also paying, and in front of the family. Let me be the eldest son a little, please. Kent, with a light-hearted tone like in a comedy sketch, put his hands together. Oh, that's right. I'm going to Conan this Saturday. I'll be gone for a week. Take care. Conan? Why? I got invited to a seminar in Conan by a friend I'm doing a side business with. I'm going to make it a success, so cheer for me, Sarah. Well, I'm off to sleep. See you tomorrow. My husband lay down on the mat in a cheerful mood and soon started snoring. My anger wouldn't subside, but recently, with Kent coming home late, we hadn't talked much, and I had no idea about this. I thought he was joking while drunk, but on the weekend, Kent really left with a large suitcase. During Kent's absence, I had the freedom to use the car, so I decided to take Tracy back to my parents' house. The next day, a shocking event awaited us. Mom, what is that? When Tracy and I returned from my parents' house, there were piles of trash bags in front of the entrance. Upon closer inspection, these bags contained mine and Tracy's belongings, carelessly packed just like real trash. What is this? Why is this happening? I don't understand. Tracy, crying, pulled out her beloved stuffed animal from the bag and hugged it. Furious, I headed towards the entrance. Huh? Has the lock changed? It seemed that the locks had been changed while we were out. This must be the work of my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, Diane. I rang the doorbell and knocked several times, but no one came out. What is this? Isn't it terrible? Upon closer inspection, one of the trash bags had a note saying, "Parasites disappear, never come back." I felt a surge of anger from the bottom of my heart. The real parasites are you. I couldn't help but let out a swear word. This was the worst treatment I had ever received from my in-laws in 15 years. Not just me, but making my daughter feel this way too. I finally lost my patience with boiling anger. I loaded the luggage into the car, and we returned to my parents' house. I will never come back to this house again. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens to the parasites when their host is gone. When we returned to my parents' house, they were shocked. I hadn't told them about the ignoring from my in-laws, the money issues, and most of all, their attitude towards Tracy. Not wanting to worry them, my parents said, "There's no need to go back to that house. You should claim compensation from them." They cried with anger and told me to stay with them. My mother's words, "You really had it tough," made me cry too. In reality, I had been trying my best all this time. Enough is enough. I finally decided to confront my feelings while staying at my parents' house. I contacted a friend who had introduced me to Kent. She was connected to Kent's side business friends. "Are you doing well? I want to ask you something. Do you know if Kent's friends are currently in Conan, that famous entrepreneur seminar, right? I was invited but wasn't interested, so I declined." "Kent didn't go, did he?" "Yeah, that's right. By the way, I heard Kent quit his job and is now managing a business with his wife. You two must be close." Yes, that's right." Nonchalantly, I replied and hung up immediately. After I called Kent's company, what my friend said was true, and to my surprise, Kent had quit his job 2 years ago. This meant that for the past 2 years, I had been paying almost all of the living expenses for my in-laws. Looking back over the years, I suddenly felt hollow. A week later, I received a laid-back message from Kent saying he was back in the U.S. After continuously ignoring him, I stopped hearing from him altogether. He must have heard the news back home. Expecting persistent contact from Kent, I hired a detective to investigate him. The investigation revealed that Kent, dressed in a suit in the morning, spent his afternoons gambling and evenings at a woman's house. So I asked for an investigation into his infidelity as well. 3 weeks later, Kent called me. It must have been close to his former company's payday, and he was panicking. "Sarah, sorry I couldn't contact you. I'm sorry for what my family did. I heard they kicked you out, and I was thinking, why did it come to this? Really? Did you tell the truth to your mother and Diane?" Kent quickly changed the subject and said something unbelievable. Let's leave that house and live in a new home, just the three of us. I'll cut ties with those who disregard you, Sarah. I'm ready to abandon my mother and Diane, so please come back. Are you really cutting ties with your mother and Diane? Was Kent planning to easily discard them after making them dependent on him? I was disappointed in Kent and his self-centered actions, so I told him, I'm coming back for now, so leave the door unlocked. Kent seemed delayed at my message. A few days later, I returned to my in-laws' house with Tracy. Kent, his mother, and Diane were there, but Ricky was nowhere to be seen. I was relieved that Ricky didn't have to witness the adults' ugly arguments. When Kent made some remarks, I ignored the displeased pair and took out a divorce form from my bag. I confronted the surprised Kent. I heard you quit your job without telling me. Since we're supposedly managing a business together, does that mean the $4,000 I've been transferring every month was actually your salary? Kent tried to excuse himself. No, that's not it. I told you the business was in trouble, right? So, I decided to quit before getting fired. Carly, I heard you quit 2 years ago, right? I called your company, and it's still not bankrupt. Kent fell silent. I pressed further. By the way, what role do you play in our joint business management? Are you the accountant? Kent became increasingly uneasy and started sweating. Kent is supporting the whole family, isn't he, Mother? He quit his job. His side business isn't going well. And yet it's a mystery where the money is coming from. I'm leaving, but please continue to get financial support from Kent. My mother-in-law and Diane's faces turned pale and ashen. But the other day on the phone, you were crying and begging to save only yourself, saying you'd cut ties with your mother and sister. Haha, but that won't happen. I'm also discarding Kent here. What do you mean? I don't understand. Kent hasn't been going to work. That's a lie. He leaves in a suit, and Sarah was supporting the household. It's true. Sarah has been paying for everything for years. I'm unemployed now and not doing any side business. We're going to have a hard life because you guys kicked Sarah out. We could have had an easy life without working if you hadn't done anything unnecessary. What do you mean by that? You were planning to abandon us, weren't you? Kent's response ignited the fury of my mother-in-law and Diane. As the three of them caused a commotion, Tracy and I began to take action. I came to pick up some forgotten items. I took a cleaning robot bought within the last 6 months, an expensive microwave favored by my mother-in-law, and a beauty device Diane had gotten from Kent. Wait, that's mine. This is mine since I bought it with my money, or you can pay me back for it. Diane fell silent at my words. Then I searched for and gathered my belongings from their rooms. The belongings they had put out did not include my expensive brand bags and accessories. Why are you taking that too? This is mine. I ignored their complaints and sweet talk. Finally, I dropped a bombshell on Kent. Oh, I forgot. I plan to claim compensation from your mistress, Mary, too. Tell her it's no use running away. What? How do you know about her? I know you went to Conan with Mary recently. Good for you, right? Of course, I have all the evidence of the affair, so no escaping that. No way. You've been deceiving me and having fun for the past 2 years. I'll be claiming compensation for the affair, child support for Tracy, and oh, you were secretly paying Diane's compensation too. I'll be claiming that back as well. As I prepared to leave, my mother-in-law and Diane desperately tried to stop me. I was wrong, Sarah. I'm sorry. We just believed what Ken said. We can't live without you. We'll do anything. Please help us. I can't pay you back for the compensation. I'm sorry too. I apologize for everything. You'll forgive us, right? I couldn't help but laugh at their foolish faces. They finally realized who had been supporting their lifestyle, realizing too late that their non-blood related support was gone. Let's just ignore these people, Mom. Let's go home. Yes, that's right. Kent, you'll be hearing from the lawyer soon. Please take care of it. Leaving a dejected Kent behind, we returned home with the items we had collected. Later, my divorce with Kent was finalized, and I demanded compensation through a lawyer. I received numerous apologies and pleas for reconciliation from my mother-in-law and Diane, but I ignored them all. Surprisingly, there was still some inheritance left from Ken's father. The fact that they had been living off my money without using their own angered me again. However, the inheritance wasn't enough for the compensation, and ultimately, they had to sell the house to make a lump sum payment. Naturally, this included the compensation I had been paying for Diane. After selling the house, I don't know what became of Ken's family. I hope Ken can take care of his family, but ultimately, he will choose his path. I also claimed compensation from Kent's mistress, which led to an unexpected revelation. Through the lawyer, I informed her that Kent was unemployed, and I had been supporting the family. Kent had deceived her, claiming he was an entrepreneur with a successful business. In the end, they broke up after an argument. Tracy and I moved to an apartment, and I was able to give her the room she had longed for. I don't think my 15 years were wasted, but sometimes I wonder if I should have made a decision when I started being ignored. Now, I feel happy that my home is a peaceful place.